What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, guys and gals? We're back with another video. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking all about baits that need to be on the deck of your boat or on the bank with you this winter. Let's get to it. So, it's cold. It's getting cold, depending on where you're at in the country. Your water's probably either covered in 4 feet of ice, or if you're in Florida, it's still 70 degrees. However, most of us are dealing with winter conditions now, starting to move into real cold winter conditions, or already in it. We're going to talk about the baits that Paul and I always have on the deck of the boat this time of year. We were going to do like a top 5 or like our top baits. That's kind of not what this is. This is more like the whole arsenal of stuff that we know pretty much 99% we can get bites on. Something in this array when the water's real cold and the fish really slow down. I'm going to start with a well-known winter bait. Come on, let's go with the jig. I mean, it's hard to beat in freezing cold temperatures throwing out a football jig into deep water, 15 up to 30, 40 feet, and just slow dragging this thing. I like a football head. Some people like they'll throw like a skipping jig, also heavier one. Whatever the bottom of your body of water contour is, whether it be, rock or pea gravel or mud. If it's mud, one thing to note, if it's mud, a jig's not going to be your best friend because it stirs up too much of the bottom when it goes around. But let the bottom of whatever body of water you're fishing dictate the head of your jig. It seems to me a football jig pretty much tends to work for me in the winter most of the time. It gets bit, it generates big bites, it's got a big profile, so fish will move a little bit to come get it, thinking that they only need, one meal, more calories. So a jig, always on the deck in the winter. Move on. I'm going to go to the other side here real quick. Something you may not usually see people putting on the deck of their boat in the summertime, or in the wintertime. Square bill. Now, we're going to have a video coming out in the next few weeks. You guys will see that's going to deal with fishing shallow versus fishing deep in the winter. So this is a little you guys get a little sneaky peeky at this. There are fish still up shallow in the winter, guys, especially if you have a more milder night and it's clear in the morning and the sun can start hitting the water and warming it up. Those bass will move up a little bit to feed shallow in the morning. You also have resident fish that just stay shallow, and where, maybe a spinnerbait and some really fast moving things, might not get bit. Banging a square bill up shallow in the winter is still a viable option for catching fish. Those resident fish got to eat. Hitting rocks and hitting wood and hitting riprap in the water with a square bill does get bit in the wintertime. Don't count it out. I do like to go to a more flat side in the winter because it's just got a little bit tighter wobble. You're not getting that real wide searching motion. It just makes it's a little more timid, and maybe those fish will come up and more apt to bite. So I do like a little flat side. This is a KVD 1.5. Then there's the Rapala, is it Ops Garage? Balsa crankbaits, those are awesome, perfect. Paul's got a lot of fish on those, but don't count out your square bill if you're going to move up shallow in the winter. Well, let's go back deep to another for sure one that it's got to be on the boat. It's on the boat all year round, let's be honest. The Dropshot. Now, one cool thing about the winter, if you've been following the channel for a while, me and Paul basically have moved only to using cover shot hooks, where, you have a Texposed hook, it's a straight shank. Here, you know what, I'll show you. Maybe. I know you guys have seen it before. I'm going to show you. In case this is your first time tuning in, we have moved to using these owner cover shots, one-aught, for drop shot all year round. Just because you keep much more rigs tied on with that. This thing, they're not getting hung up nearly as much. You can literally punch with this setup and beat just fine. That being said, in the wintertime, if you're out fishing deep, chances are you're fishing rock piles or drop-offs, ledges, things like that, current breaks. You can go back to the regular nose-hooked drop shot. And you do get better hook sets. And I wouldn't say better. I would say that, especially in the wintertime,
On a drop shot? Ooh, that's a big fish.
Having that nose hook is nice in the wintertime. It's winter. The grass is dead, you know, for the most part. Not having to worry about snagging up on as much stuff. And if you're out deep, again, all you really got to worry about is rock and contour. So open hook in the wintertime. Unless we go up shallow. Or, you know, not fishing quite as deep, and then maybe there's, you know, submerged trees and stuff. I'll still have the cover shot nearby. But if I can get away with it, I do like to fish the open hook, especially in the wintertime. So, drop shot, of course, right? It's like a staple of winter fishing. Let's move back up to here. Weightless Senko. Again, this is kind of like a bait you can fish all year with, right? Just typical Texas rig, weightless Senko. You can do it wacky if you want. This is another bait that I will go throw up shallow in the winter. Moves real slow. It falls obviously very slow. It's unweighted. Using a 1/0 hook, just really light gear, light line. And I'll just pitch this up near cover in the wintertime. Near rocks. You know, rocks tend to take that sun and hold that heat in. So shallow fish in the wintertime will get up near rocks, pitching this around rocks, around wood, basically around any cover, just like you would any other time of the year. But don't count it out in the wintertime. You can still get bites on shallow water with a weightless Senko, and I think it's a great option. Now, let's go Mac Daddy here. The deep diving crankbait. This is a Strike King 8XD. Whatever one suits your guys' fancy is the one you should use. I pulled this one out because I love this color. I don't know why. This is an 8XD. I can get it to dive about 15, 16 feet, somewhere around there. If you got to go deeper, the Berkeley Dredger is really good. Tactical Bassins, Tactical DD's very good. Like old school, like Norman's, can get pretty deep also. I like the Strike King line, and I like the Berkeley Dredger line. Berkeley Dredger line's got a weighted bill, so you can really get down there deep faster. You know, you guys know if you've been fishing for a long period of time, and if you don't know, I mean, when those bass go deep in the winter, slow dragging this thing, come knocking by. It's annoying. It's got loud rattles, as you guys can hear. Big ones, little ones, you know, coming down up a ledge. It gets bit. There is a place for it, even though it's a moving bait in the wintertime. Long lining these things, as we've talked about before, making a cast and then trolling that boat, leaving your bail open and trolling that boat down a couple hundred yards and reeling this thing in so you can cover all the ground where those fish are staged up deep is a great idea in the wintertime. But these get bit, and they should definitely be on the boat through winter. Let's go to another staple of winter fishing. I mean, the jerkbait. For a long time, it was like, for me, I thought that it was either, if you were fishing in the winter, you were fishing a jig, a drop shot, or a jerkbait. And I wouldn't throw anything else just because I thought it wasn't a viable option. But this is a deep diving jerkbait. This is the KVD from Strike King. That's that natural shad color. I love this color. You guys can see it. I mean, that thing looks just like a fish. I don't know if the fish care, but I do. So there you go. Now, jerkbaits. Obviously, great for suspended fish in the wintertime. Typically, if we're out deep, you're going to want to deep dive in jerkbait. Depending on where your fish are set up, where they're suspended at, that's what needs to dictate your jerkbait running depth. Now, if you've got fish down at 30, 40 feet, you know, pretty close to the bottom, would I go to the jerkbait? You know, a deep diving jerkbait that gets down 10 feet right off the bat? Probably not. Typically in the winter, those fish don't like to move a whole lot, unless it's a big meal. Now, there are some pretty big jerkbaits on the market. You know, the Jackal range is pretty big. But if they're deep, I'm probably not going to go to the jerkbait first. If they're sitting off the bottom, I mean, you know, that'll be like the jig, the drop shot, the deep diving crankbait, something to get right in their face. But when you find those schools of fish that are suspended, that's where your jerkbait shines. Again, wherever depth they're suspended at, let that dictate the depth of your jerkbait. And also, using maybe a shallow running jerkbait, again, you can still get up shallow and fish. Those fish got to eat. Those resident fish that don't move back and forth as far with, you know, the changing of conditions and water temperature and such, they got to eat too. They will eat a jerkbait up shallow. So don't necessarily put all your shallow running jerkbaits away for the season. They have a place too. Now, the last thing on the list, and it's the last thing because it's like, I say it's everybody's least favorite thing, but I don't know that that is to be true. I know that it's like one of my least favorite things, at least it used to be. Now, I'll throw it and I'm pretty happy to do so because I know it's going to get bites. It used to be that if I picked this thing up, I was basically giving up on my life as a bass fisherman, and I thought I should basically go back to hooking a, I don't know, like an earthworm on a bobber, and that'd be my place in the world. But the Ned rig, the turd. I mean, the first time I saw this thing, I think the first time anybody saw this thing, we thought, what in the world would you ever tie that on? Why would you do it? That's the dumbest thing ever. It doesn't even move. It's so small. What a dumb thing. But it has proven itself to be, I mean, a staple in bass fishing, really. I mean, not even just for winter bass fishing. This thing, I mean, they've won $100,000 tournaments on the MLF tours on a Ned rig. And if you would have told me that 10 years ago, I would have bet my earnings for the rest of my life that wasn't true. However, this thing gets bit. And I don't ever start with this. I don't go to the lake and I'm like, you know what, today, Paul, I'm going to fish a Ned rig. That's not what I go for. What I do is I go through our normal line of baits, find where the fish are, where we're going to fish them, if they're up shallow, if they're out deep. Then I'll figure out, are they going to chase something? And are they willing to move today in the wintertime? Or any time, really, but specifically we're talking about winter. Okay, maybe not so much. Will they bite a drop shot up shallow? Yes. Okay, cool. Maybe they're not wanting to move for the drop shot quite as much. Or maybe I'm putting a little too much action in the drop shot, but I'm still getting some bites. That's when I go to this. I mean, yeah, it stinks. This is an 8 ounce head. It takes forever to get to the bottom unless you're in a foot of water. But it gets bit, guys. Don't, I urge you that if you're one of those guys that was like me, or one of those girls that was not like me, because I'm a guy. If you were like me, and you were like, I don't want to fish this thing, it's stupid. You're right. However, if you're not getting bit that day, please tie one of these on. Because it will change your mind about this bait. You'll understand that this thing has a place. So, the Ned rig, in the winter especially, it gets bit. And I'll catch, like, the funny thing is you catch good fish on this. Like, when you cast out the first time, and you're like, well, I'm going to catch, like, a, this size bass, and you catch, like, a 2-pounder or a 3-pounder, that was when it clicked for me. Like, the first time I caught a fish on this, the very first fish I caught on this was, like, a 2.5-pounder, and I was like, I mean, again, obviously, it's no giant, it's no ditch panda, but I thought I was going to be catching like this year's fry. However, it's got a good spot. Put it in your arsenal. Use it this winter when the bite gets tough. All right, guys, that's it. Those are the baits that are always going to be tied on the deck of the boat for Paul and myself this winter. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, let us know. Let us know also down in the comments or send us a DM what you guys are throwing this winter. If there's anything we missed, I know there's a couple that we didn't talk about. Honorable mention, the Alabama rig. Obviously, it's great. I don't have one here with me, but great winter bait. It's a lot of bait fish that they see. They think they can get an easy meal. It's terrific. Anything else that you guys think that we should have on our deck? Let us know. We'll try it out. We might even make a video out of it. Who knows? But if you guys haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think. Be sure to hit that bell. That way you guys know every time we drop a video. And until next week, we'll see you later.